Okay guys, so today is the second day that we are doing similar shapes and figures. So yesterday we learned the steps for finding a missing side length, right? So we went ahead and used our colors to identify corresponding sides, and then we set up a proportion. So with this example, we would identify, let's see, so AC has a length. So AC, get a color here. So AC is the same as DF. I'm using my letters here. DF. So those sides correspond. And then I also need DE. Okay. So up here again, I'm going to look at my letters DE, which means that corresponds to AB. So once I did that, I can set up a proportion. So you have two ways. You can do it within one figure. So I could do 6 over 10 equals x over 5. If I did red first, I have to do red first the second time. Or I could do it between. I could do both reds and both blues. So I'm going to just go ahead and do this figure first. So I'm going to do 6 over 10 equals, and then since I did red first, I have to do red first again, x over 5. So see both of these on top, 6 and x are my red ones, and then 10 and 5 are my blue ones, okay? And then I would do my cross product and solve. So I have 10x equals 5 times 6 is 30. So if I divide by 10, my x equals 3. Okay, which totally makes sense, right? Because 3 times 2 is 6 and 5 times 2 is 10. Perfect. So now we're going to bump it up a notch, and we have a triangle within a triangle. And it honestly gets a little bit confusing, so we are going to take the triangles apart by drawing them separately. So this one here, yes, my angle up here is funny, but whatever. A, B, E. So the big triangle, I have AB is 15. And then it says AE, I don't know what that is, so I'm going to put X. Then our little triangle is CDE. And it says that CD is 10 and CE is 12. Okay, so now when I break it apart like this, it's much more manageable, and we can identify our corresponding sides, right? So AB corresponds to CD. And then we have AE corresponds to CE. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set up our proportion. I'm going to do it as the shape first. So 15 over x equals 10 over 12. So now I can go ahead and do my cross product and solve. So 10x equals 12 times 15. So, okay, 15 times 12, 2 times 5 is 10, 2, 3, 0, 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, 0, 5, 6, 7, 8, 180. Then I'm going to divide by the number with x, so I divide by 10. Those get to cancel, and it is 18. Okay, so that means this whole big side here is 18. All right, let's let you go ahead and try the next one. Let's first draw our shapes together. Okay, there's the big one. Here's the smaller one. They don't need to be perfect. You get the idea. Okay, so I have A, B, C. And then I have D, E, C. this one here is 11. And then, let's see, I don't know what this is, but that little piece is x. Okay, so I'm going to say that this whole big piece is y. So I'm going to put a y here, and then DE is 7, and this piece is 15. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and do our corresponding sides. So I have 11 and 7, and then I have y and 7 and 15. Okay, so you guys go ahead and press pause and set up your proportion and find y. Okay guys, so I got a decimal that continues, but we're going to go ahead and stop at the 10th place. So I'm going to stop at 23.5. But notice here, it's not asking for this whole amount. It's asking for this little piece, right? So this little piece plus this blue side, 15, equals our y value, okay? So our y value is 23.5. So if I take this 15 piece away, then I'd have x, right? So that operation then is going to be subtraction, right? So 23.5 minus 15.0. Gotta line up your decimal. 5 minus 0 is 5. Borrow 13. 5 is 8. So x, the side length x, is 8.5. All right, let's move on to the next piece. So the next piece says, let's see. You can compare proportions by. Okay, so before we get to that, let's look at shaking the cobwebs loose, okay? So what is the difference between perimeter and area? So say for example in our classroom, perimeter is the distance around the room and area is all the space within it. So if we look at this picture here, around the window is the perimeter, and then the window itself, the space inside it, is the area. Okay, so let's take a look at this problem here. It says rectangle ABCD is similar to PQRS. So if we know they're similar, we know the angles are congruent and the sides are proportional. So if I go ahead and look at, okay, so I have AD is here. So AD corresponds to PS. Okay. And then I have DC and RS. That's the other side of a rectangle, right? So that means this is going to be 12 as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set up my own proportion. So I'm going to say 5/8 equals x over 12. I have to do red first. X over 12, okay? So which choice shows the equations that could be used to find the area of the rectangle? So first use the proportion. So first we're going to look at the proportion, and I have 8 and x in my diagonal. So as long as 8 and x are in the diagonal together, then I can use that proportion. So this first one, you cannot use that proportion, okay? So this one has 8 and x. That looks good so far. This has 8 and 12. Does not look good. And this one has 8 and 12. Does not look good. So we already know our answer just based on the proportion and using the cross product and looking at what's in the diagonal with each other, right? And then to find the area of something, it's length times width. So we'd multiply 12 times x. So guys, use your diagonals to make sure that the proportion is the same as any proportion that you set up. So now we're going to look at some real world examples. Make sure that you are putting them in your notes. Okay, so the first one says a palm tree casts a shadow that's 28 feet long. A 6-foot sign casts a shadow that's 8 feet long. How tall is the palm tree? So we are going to go ahead and draw two triangles. Okay, so if I go from the top to the top, I draw a triangle, top to the top, I draw a triangle. So don't worry about drawing your signs and stuff and your tree, just draw your triangles. So the palm tree casts a shadow, so the shadow down here is 28 feet long. And a 6-foot sign, so it's 6 feet tall, casts a shadow that's 8 feet long. How tall is the palm tree? So we want to know how tall the palm tree is in real life, okay? So same exact thing that we've been doing. We have the height here and the height here, okay? And then we have the shadow here and the shadow here, okay? So we're going to go ahead and set up our proportion now. I'm going to do the palm tree first. So x over 28 equals 6 over 8. Once my proportion's set up, I do my cross product. So 8x equals, and I have 6 times 28, so 28 times 6. 8 times 6 is 48, 12, 16, so I have 168. I'm going to divide by the number with x, so I have 168 divided by 8. Well, 2 times 8 is 16, 0, bring down my 8. 8 times 1 is 8, and that's it. So x is 21, so 21 feet. Now, does that make sense? So this is a little bit shorter than the shadow, a little bit shorter than the shadow. So that's a reasonable answer. All right, next example. It says rectangle 1 has a length of 18 inches and an area of 216 square inches. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and draw my rectangle 1. So it has a length of 18 inches. Okay, rectangle 1, length of 18 inches, and an area of 216 square inches. Okay, rectangle 2 is similar. Okay, so we know the side lengths are proportional, and has a width of 9 inches. Okay, so here's my second rectangle. I don't know if it's bigger or smaller, I'm just gonna guess. Find the area of rectangle 2. Okay, so this one gives us area. So guys, remember from the beginning of class, or towards the beginning, we said area is the inside. So to find the area, it's length times width, or base times height. Okay, so 18 times, let's say, x equals 216, right? So 18x equals 216. So I'm going to divide 216 by 18 to get the width of my first triangle. So 216 divided by 18. 18 goes once. 8, 36. 2 times 18 is 36. So x is 12. So this length here is 12. So now that I have 3 lengths, I can go ahead and find, it says find the area. So I need the length here. I'm going to say that this is y. Oh, okay. Because I've already used the letter x, right? So if I set up a proportion, I can solve for y. So let's see, 12 over 18. So width over length is 9 over y. And guys, go ahead and find your y. Okay, that length is 13.5, but it says to find the area. Do that as your last piece. And I got 121.5 inches.